Hey guys, today I just want to show you my new Windows laptop. So this is the HP Dragonfly Elite G3. It is the third generation of the HP Dragonfly Elite series, and it is basically just an upgrade over my old HP Dragonfly Elite, which I've had since 2020. So let me show you. This is my old HP Dragonfly Elite. It has served me well for, it's coming up on 2.5 years now, which is actually over 2.5 years. Yeah, it's actually coming up on 3 years, which is quite a long time for me, right? Because you guys know I do a lot of videos on different gadgets and different devices. So having the same device for almost 3 years is that means that this device has been in my collection for quite a bit longer than most of my devices. So I feel it's time to upgrade, because there's a few things about this laptop is it's actually out of the warranty period, but this laptop has an overheating issue, which means that if the charger is plugged in for too long a time, or if you're running like an intensive application, the laptop will automatically shut down. It can't cope with the amount of heat, and you can see that it's been used quite a bit. Like the bumpers at the bottom have all been basically worn out. So this is definitely a laptop I've used quite a lot. This was basically my main portable Windows machine, right, for almost 3 years. So this is the one I use the most out of all my Windows machines. So yeah, it's definitely gotten a lot of use, and now with the overheating issue, I figured it's time to finally upgrade it. And looking around all the different options, the ThinkPad X1 Carbon, or the Dell XPS, or the HP Spectre X360s. Yeah, I figured, might as well keep with the HP Dragonfly and go for the Dragonfly Elite G3, which came out a few months ago. Why not, right? I also looked at the Microsoft Surface laptops as well. So I think this makes the most sense for me, just to upgrade from the Dragonfly Elite to the next, well, actually 2 generations above, right? I think this is actually pretty interesting upgrade for me because, well, the original Dragonfly Elite had a 360-degree hinge, so it folded all the way back like this into a tablet form factor. This is also known as the Yoga form factor, named after the Lenovo Yoga. But I actually don't use this form factor a lot because it's not that practical, right? Although the HP Dragonfly is pretty light, like this weighs about 2.5 pounds, it's still not light enough for me to be able to, use this very often in this mode as a laptop. What I find myself doing instead is using it more like a stand mode, just for watching movies and stuff. And that's really just like a minor convenience thing. It's not really it's not a deal breaker not to have this 360-degree hinge, because I don't really use it in this tablet mode very often anyways. Like this is more for like, really, if you have it under 2 pounds, it might be okay. But yeah, 2.5 pound laptop is really kind of bulky to be used as a tablet. But if you have a stand configuration, that's just a minor convenience thing, right? That's really the only thing I use the 360-degree hinge for, is like sometimes when I watch movies or videos, I use it in this mode, and that's pretty much it. Other things I do like about the laptop, though, I really like the lightweight. I like the keyboard, right? This is probably pretty much one of my favorite keyboards on a portable Windows machine. And yeah, it's a touchscreen, so that's nice, and display was pretty decent as well. Speakers are not great, but it is like a very thin and light laptop, so can't really expect much there. But yeah, I think overall this was a fine laptop that served me well for almost 3 years, and yeah, I quite enjoyed using the keyboard. Display was nice, and it's very light and portable. So yeah, might as well upgrade to the new generation. And I have to explain that new generation, why I point out about the 360-degree hinge on the first generation, is because the new one does not have a 360-degree hinge. It only goes back about this far. So it has a 180-degree hinge, not a 360-degree like the first generation. And that doesn't bother me that much because, like I said, I don't really use it in tablet mode. And the only thing I used it was, sometimes in that stand mode for watching movies and stuff, which is just a minor convenience thing. It's not a deal breaker. So that's why I pointed that out. Is HP, I guess, decided to regress, and for their new generation laptop, they removed that 360-degree capability. Now, why they did that, I'm not too sure. Maybe they think that not enough people are using it, which makes sense to me. Like I said, it's rather cumbersome to use it in that tablet mode. But yeah, that seems like an interesting thing to go back. So there's a few differences between these two laptops besides just the specs. So you can see that the shape of these two laptops are different, and that's because the first generation Dragonfly Elite has a 16:9 aspect ratio, which is a pretty common aspect ratio for laptops of this size. But the new Dragonfly Elite G3 has a 3:2 aspect ratio, which I prefer. I think that 3:2 is a nice balance between the productivity, kind of more, you get more vertical space, but you also get decent kind of wider view for watching media as well. Whereas 16:9 is mostly geared towards watching media. You have less vertical space for reading text. But the 3:2 aspect ratio combines kind of in the middle ground between the traditional 4:3 aspect ratio, which is more for, you know, reading a lot of text and getting productivity work done, and the 16:9, you know, media watching aspect ratio. It's kind of right in the middle. I guess a lot of people prefer 16:10 as well. I find 3:2 and 16:10 are both good. MacBooks have a 16:10 aspect ratio, but the I would say notably the two companies that have been known for 3:2 aspect ratios, Google with the Pixelbook and Microsoft with their Surface laptops, they all have 3:2 aspect ratios. So yeah, those are the things that are a little bit different. This has a 3:2 aspect ratio and no 360-degree hinge. This one, 16:9 aspect ratio and a 360-degree hinge. And of course, the G3 has updated specs. It has a 12th generation processor. Mine came with a i5 1235U. In terms of the other specs, it's pretty much the same. Both have 16 gigs of RAM, both have 256 gig SSD. You'll find that for RAM and SSD, those things don't really change all too much in the last 10 years when it comes to laptops. We've only really seen the processors go up. So yeah, I mean, you can go back 10 years ago, you'll still find 256 gig SSD with 8 gigs of or 16 gigs of RAM. So that has not changed too much, but we just see processor upgrades. All right, when it comes to weight, both of these, I would say this is about 2.5 pounds. This one is a little bit heavier, about 2.7 pounds. So the new G3 is slightly heavier than the original generation. I'm not sure why. I think the materials are a bit different. It seems like they use a little bit more premium feeling materials on the G3 to me. Yeah, I know that they use magnesium on the original Dragonfly Elite. So it's interesting, it's still called Dragonfly because it's still pretty light, but it's not as light as the first generation. And yeah, I kind of wish this would be lighter. Like the 2.5 pound weight of the original generation was really nice. Kind of wish they kept that, but this is slightly heavier, 2.7 pounds. It weighs about as much as the new MacBook Airs, the M2 MacBook Airs, which are also 2.7 pounds. So it's still fairly light, just not as light as the previous generation. So I mean, it is called Dragonfly. The whole marketing for the Dragonfly was that it was super light. So now it's not really super light anymore. It's about the same lightness as, you know, competing laptops. So that's, I guess, just one thing I wish that they could have made it lighter. Otherwise, yeah, you don't have the 360-degree hinge, so you don't have this anymore showing. Now you just have, yeah, I guess it's not as prominent, right? Because you don't have to bend all the way back. Yeah, the hinge is not as prominent on this one. Logo is still the same, of course, the newer HP logo. Down at the bottom here, you still have the same. Mine, of course, the rubber bumpers are gone, but pretty much the same design here. I hope this one does not overheat, because the problem with this design was that it led to a lot of overheating. So that's the problem that this laptop has. Yeah, this doesn't have adequate ventilation, I think. This one, I hope it has enough adequate ventilation. And we can take a look at the ports. I think they're similar. So in the original Dragonfly Elite, we have one HDMI full-size, headphone jack, two USB-C ports. You can use either of them for charging the laptop. Okay, the other side, you have a full-size USB-A port, power button on the side, which is actually not a good position. It makes it kind of easy to accidentally hit. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, there's no micro SD card slot, unfortunately. I kind of wish there was. And yeah, there is no way, actually, there's no volume buttons here, because a lot of convertibles, they have the volume buttons on the side. But that's fine. I don't really, yeah, I don't really care about having buttons on the side because I don't use this much in tablet mode. I actually really don't like the fact that they have the power button here. Like I said, really easy to accidentally press. I wish that the power button would just be on the inside. Okay, so we can take a look at the new Dragonfly laptop. Okay, so on the side we have a USB-C port for charging. We have a half-height USB-A port, which is interesting. I guess that slims down the profile a bit. This one does not have, the older one does not have a half-height. This one has a half-height USB-A. So you can still fit a USB-A, but it's a, you know, slimmer kind of profile. Headphone jack right here. And then on the other side we have full-size HDMI and another USB-C port. So we have pretty much the same ports. There's no difference here. Only that there's a half-height USB-A port, interestingly enough, on the G3. And I don't really see that the G3 is that much slimmer anyway, so I don't really see that big of a difference in thickness. Yeah, I mean, the original Dragonfly Elite was already pretty thin. The G3 is not as thin. And of course, the finish, right? We have to talk about that too. This has kind of like a gray finish, whereas the original Dragonfly Elite has a nice iridescent blue finish, which I really like. So I really like the blue finish on the original. I don't know why they didn't have that on the G3. So this is a more matte gray finish, which is, to me, more of a boring look. Yeah, the G3 is more of an eye catcher, right? Let's see. So yeah, there's several things they changed on G3 which I don't quite understand. So yeah, maybe someone who knows can let me know, like, why did they get rid of the 360-degree hinge? Is just because they didn't think people use it? Or yeah, and yeah, why did they increase the weight? And why did they change the color? I don't get that. Other than that, this new display here, I guess the original Dragonfly Elite already have some pretty slim bezels here, right? Yeah, slim bezels here, pretty nice keyboard. Like I said, I really like this keyboard on the original Dragonfly Elite, and the display is already pretty thin bezels here. So I don't think there's too much change here. I think they have slightly thinner bezels. You can compare, right? Definitely there is a even thinner bezel on the Dragonfly G3, the newer version. So you have a, yeah, it's like maybe a few millimeters reduced bezel. Yeah, this you can see it better. Go up closer here. Yeah, see, you really see that this one, even though it's already pretty thin to begin with on the original, it's definitely got less on the G3. And of course the aspect ratio, right? So the actual display sizes are a bit different. Yeah, the original Dragonfly Elite had a 13.3-inch display. The new G3 laptop has a 13.5-inch display. So I like the bigger display on the G3. I think it's better. As for the keyboard, I think this is interesting. The keyboard actually feels a little bit different on the G3. Yeah, it's not as... The original keyboard on the Dragonfly Elite was fairly tactile and clicky. The new one, it's quieter. Definitely a bit quieter. Still good. Still nice keyboard. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. The keyboard on the G3 seems to have, or the keys on the keyboard on the G3 seems to have a bit more resistance compared to the keys on the original Dragonfly keyboard. See, this one you can definitely hear a bit more sound, right? A bit more tactile. This one a bit quieter. And it takes a little bit more, yeah, it has a little bit more resistance, so it takes a little bit more to press down. So that's interesting. Other than that, the layout's pretty much the same. The size of the keys are pretty much the same. I will have to note that they did move the power button to the keyboard, which is a good thing. That, like I said, it was too easy to accidentally press on the original, right? It's right on the side here. It's easy to accidentally hit. They moved the power button to the keyboard here, which is a good thing. I like that. They moved the fingerprint sensor as well. The fingerprint sensor is right here on the original. They moved it to right on the keyboard here on the G3. Other than that, pretty much the same layout and the same keys. I don't see too much of a difference there. They got rid of some of these keys here, which is fine by me. I don't really use them. There's like a call hang up button here and like some other buttons here I don't really use much on the original Dragonfly, and they seem to have gotten rid of that for some other buttons here. Yeah, this one, like I think this one disables the camera. So on the original Dragonfly, the display actually had a shutter here. So you can have a physical shutter here to hide the webcam. So in case, you know, you want to have more privacy, you can disable the webcam like that. I think this one has an electronic webcam disabler rather than a physical webcam disabler. Maybe it does the same thing. So you press this, you can electronically disable the webcam here. So this one doesn't have a physical shutter like the G1 does. G1 has a physical shutter right here. So that's one other thing I noticed. The touchpad here is bigger on the G3, so you can look at the touchpad here. The G1 touchpad is like this, and the G3 has a bigger touchpad. So that's an improvement, I guess, as long as it has good palm rejection. And Dragonfly here is marked, instead of the original just says Elite Book, and doesn't look quite as nice as the embossed logo there. The Bang & Olufsen speakers, so both of them have Bang & Olufsen. The G1 has these grills on the side, which I guess are the speaker grills. On the G3, it's right up here on top. And I guess they did that because this has more, the aspect ratio, right? This has more vertical length than the G1 has more width. So I guess that makes sense too. I hope these Bang & Olufsen speakers are a little bit better though. I'll have to test that out. But yeah, otherwise it runs Windows 11 Pro, so not too much to say about that. I think that's pretty much it. I would say that there are a lot of similarities and some differences as well. The major differences being that, you know, other than the spec upgrade on the G3 has a different aspect ratio. It's a 3:2 aspect ratio over the 16:9. I would say for some reason the color is different on the G3. I prefer the blue color on the G1. The weight is a little bit more on the G3. I'm not really sure why. They got rid of the 360-degree hinge. They moved the power button to the inside, which is a good thing. They increased the size of the palm rest, and they got rid of some of the superfluous buttons on there. On the G3, no physical shutter on the webcam anymore. They have electronic one instead, which is fine. Fingerprint reader got moved, which is fine as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just really minor differences like that. Otherwise, still both pretty light. Still nice business laptops to go with, and same ports. So that's it, guys. I'll be upgrading to the HP Dragonfly Elite G3. Really, the differences are just kind of minor things. Really, to me, they're a little bit nitpicky, but you know, I do have to mention them. None of them are really deal breakers for me. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention the price. I got the original G3 at a discount for $1,000 because it was like refurbished, and this one I also bought for $1,000 refurbished. If you buy it like at the full MSRP, it's quite expensive. It's at least $1,800, I think, for the base configuration. But I always scour eBay, you know, for these business laptops, and I can almost always find them at a discount. So yeah, I got this for $1,000, so it's a decent discount. You can always find these business laptops at a discount and just get them refurbished. I think that's always the best deal. So yeah, that's the price of this. It's not too bad actually for what you get out of it, especially since business laptops are always built to a higher standard, you know, spill resistant keyboard and like military standard, you know, kind of testing that they did on it. So all the materials are built really well, so it should be quite durable. So that's what I like about getting business laptops. Alright, so after using this computer for a bit, I do want to talk about a few advantages I found of the G3. That's not just about the performance. So first of all, the fingerprint sensor is on the keyboard. Now this is just a small thing, but you know, small things add up. So when you're using the keyboard, actually when you're logging in, right, you tend to just put your hands like this, right? You're ready to log in, and it's just a smaller reach for your finger to access the button right here. Whereas on the old one, right, on my old G1 here, yeah, the fingerprint sensor was like basically at this place here. So you had to move your finger a little bit more, and it's a little bit more uncomfortable. So I do like the fingerprint sensor being here. You just need to rest your finger on there, and you just saw that I just logged in, right? Having the power button here on the keyboard is really nice because, like I said, it's very easy to accidentally depress the power button on my G1 because you can just like hit it accidentally, right, when you're holding it like this. So yeah, that's it's really nice to put the power button here where it's, you know, not as easy to accidentally hit. Okay, so another thing is I really like the keyboard on the G3. They made it quieter, so like it's definitely noticeably quieter than the G1 keyboard, and that's really useful because this is marketed as a business laptop, which means business people are mostly going to use this in a conference room or in an office where the keyboard, you don't want to disturb people, so you want the keyboard to be more quiet. So this keyboard is definitely more quiet compared to the G1, so that is definitely more helpful. I think you definitely want to have a more quiet keyboard when you're in a business setting, and it doesn't lose any of the great travel or feedback of the G1 keyboard. So you keep the great feedback and travel of the G1 keyboard, but you make it quieter. So this is a much better keyboard. Another thing I want to talk about is the fact that the USB-C ports are one on each side of this laptop. So compared to my G1 laptop has both USB-C charging ports on this side. So just having it on one side means you have to have the charger on this side, otherwise you're going to wrap it around and it doesn't look as good, or you have to rotate the laptop, so it's a little bit more inconvenient, right? Whereas with this laptop, you don't have to rotate it, you don't have to wrap any cable around. Whatever side your charger is on, whether it be this side, the right side, or left side, you have a USB-C charging port on both of these sides. So that is fairly convenient, I say. Another thing is that this is a touchscreen, so I can just do this and yeah, even though it doesn't have the 360-degree hinge, it doesn't become a tablet, it doesn't have the tablet mode or the stand mode, it still has the touchscreen. So that's really useful. You can see this is running Windows 11 with the touchscreen. And the thing I like about this is because I just like to have options, right? Some people told me that they don't want to have a laptop with a touchscreen. Well, why not? You don't have to use it, right? There's no downsides to having a touchscreen on a laptop. It's just an extra option. I find personally, well, I don't use the touchscreen a whole lot, but there are situations where I find it more useful, like when I'm zooming into a picture or I'm zooming into a map, then having the pinch to zoom and pinch out, that's a really useful feature than just using the touchpad. So I find there's no downside to having a touchscreen on a laptop. It's just an extra option. If you don't want it to be there, then you don't have to use it, right? Another thing is, I feel like this laptop is a bit better built. That might be the reason why it's a bit heavier compared to the G1, which feels more plasticky. So they use, I don't know, it's just the material feels a bit more plasticky. This laptop feels more solid compared to something like my MacBook M2, for example. This is my MacBook Air M2. So this is a very solid laptop, right? Everyone knows MacBooks are built to be quite solid. So yeah, this is very solid feeling laptop, very premium feeling laptop, right? So right now I have a skin on it, but yeah, this is a pretty solid feeling laptop. Everyone knows, MacBooks, they feel very solid. So I would say that this is equivalent to that. It feels very, very solid. So it definitely feels more premium compared to my G1. So the whole matte finish and everything, and the display is matte compared to my G1 display, which is a glossy display. So you can see a difference here, right? When the light is reflecting off of the display here, there's no glare here, right? So that's a good thing. It's a matte finish compared to my G1, which you can see that the display is glossy, so there's a lot of reflections happening from the display here. That's not a good thing, for a business laptop. You don't want to have all these this reflective display. It's very distracting. So this laptop is a bit more consumery, right? Usually consumer laptops have glossy displays. So yeah, I'm glad that they made the display more matte. Yeah, because one of the things I didn't like about my G1 display was that, yeah, it's just way too reflective, way too glossy. And they fixed that in the G3. Until it's a totally matte finish, it is not glossy or reflective at all. So that is a good thing as well. Finally, I want to say that the speakers on the G3 are really, really nice. These Bang & Olufsen speakers, they must have improved it, because my G1, the speakers are, they're decent, like for a laptop of this size, but they're not going to blow anyone away. They're a little bit anemic. But these speakers, these Bang & Olufsen speakers, I think they improved it. So let's just listen to this song here. Whoops. Let's just listen to this song here. Whoop, why is it? Jeez, is it stuck there? Okay. All right, let's just listen to this song here. Okay, and make sure that the volume is at max. All right, so you guys can hear these speakers are actually quite impressive for a device this size. See? There's, I can definitely hear the sounds bigger. There's more bass extension. and there's actually an impressive amount of bass. Yeah, so you guys can hear there's actually an impressive amount of bass coming from this. It's fairly loud, and yeah, I would say that it's pretty nicely detailed too. So yeah, these speakers actually impress me a lot. I would say that they're comparable to my MacBook Air speakers, and that's impressive because the MacBook usually has pretty good speakers. Actually, the MacBook has one of the best speakers for an ultra portable. So yeah, the Dragonfly G3 actually keeps up with the MacBook speakers, which is actually really impressive. Yeah, like before, I would never say that my Dragonfly Elite G1 speakers are anywhere close to my MacBook or MacBook Air or MacBook Pro, but yeah, these speakers are very impressive for the size. So yeah, that's the other things I wanted to talk about is a few other things that when I'm actually using it, it's actually very useful, and I find that to be an advantage. Like, yeah, I really do think the build quality is a bit better. Speakers are better. I like the fact they put the USB ports on the side, both sides here, so it's more useful. They put the power button and the fingerprint reader in the keyboard. The matte display, like, yeah, these are all improvements, and of course they have the 3:2 aspect ratio, which I like as well. So yeah, those are all definitely improvements in the smaller bezels. So yeah, after using it for a while, yeah, I definitely find this to be an impressive laptop. For Windows laptops, at least, I think it's definitely every bit a competitor to the MacBook Air. So here's my MacBook Air. You can see the size difference. MacBook Air has a 16:10 aspect ratio, and the Dragonfly Elite G3 has a 3:2 aspect ratio. So they're a little bit closer than the 16:9 from my G1. You can see the MacBook Air M2 is still slimmer, but yeah, G3 comes close, I guess. They're both pretty slim, but the Air M2 is hard to beat when it comes to the slimness. And this one, I guess they weigh about the same as well. Yeah, the Air M2 and the Dragonfly Elite G3, they weigh about the same, 2.7 pounds-ish. But yeah, both of these laptops are really nice, solidly built. Of course, Mac OS versus Windows, that's going to be the biggest difference between these two. Both of these I feel are really nice laptops, right? So basically I'd say the Dragonfly Elite G3 is the Windows equivalent of the MacBook Air M1 now. So yeah, all the advantages of the M1, the build quality, the speakers, right, the lightness, the aspect ratio. Yeah, I feel like the Dragonfly Elite G3 has all those advantages too. So yeah, you can tell that they're fairly similar in size as well. Yeah, the only difference is because this is a 3:2 aspect ratio, it has a little bit more vertical space, and the MacBook Air has a 16:10 aspect ratio, so it has a little bit more horizontal space, a little bit more width, right? So yeah, that would be pretty much a very minor difference compared to the 16:9 aspect ratio of the G1, which just kind of juts out a bit. Yeah, I definitely prefer the aspect ratios of both of these two laptops more. So that's it, guys. The HP Dragonfly Elite G3. Okay, a couple more comments I want to add is that the HP Dragonfly Elite G3, I might have made a mistake saying that it was 2.7 pounds. Actually, I looked it up on the website. It was 2.2 pounds. That's what HP says it starts at, which I don't actually believe it's 2.2 pounds. Just like holding it, it's more than 2.2 pounds. Like, it says it starts at 2.2 pounds. I would say it's yeah, I would say it's fairly similar to the G1, which is about 2.4, 2.5, like I said. So yeah, just holding both of these in my hand right now, yeah, I would say that they're fairly similar. So I don't believe that's 2.2. I think it's about the same as the G1, which also, by the way, HP said it started at 2.2. But in practice, like when I'm holding these two, they're both about 2.4, 2.5. So still, yeah, it's a little bit lighter than I said originally earlier in this video. So just want to make that correction. But you know, they're still like fairly light actually. So yeah, 2.4, 2.5. That's a few like ounces lighter than the MacBook Air M2. So yeah, but it's not a significant difference, right? That's why I said it felt similar, because it doesn't feel like a significant difference. We're talking about 2.7 versus 2.5, 2.2. See, like 0.2, 0.3 pounds difference. I don't really, it's not that noticeable to me. So yeah, anyways, these are all pretty light Ultrabooks. So if you get the Dragonfly Elite, you're guaranteed to get a Ultrabook that's fairly lighter than most of the other Ultrabooks on the market. So yeah, the other thing is, actually you see on the back here, actually you can see that they added this Dragonfly logo on the back, which I guess is not, whoops, there we go. Yeah, maybe it's interesting to some people, I guess, if you just like lay it down, fold it up and you lay it down on a table or something, maybe you can see it. Yeah, the original Dragonfly does not have anything on the back like that on the hinge. So yeah, just something to note. It will get covered up when you actually open it up though. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I would say, yeah, compared to the G1, the differences are subtle. Like they're minor differences, but they add up. So first of all, actually, I shouldn't say subtle. Some of the differences are kind of major to me anyways. Like the 3:2 aspect ratio display, that's a major difference to me. It's a matte display, has smaller bezels. The speakers are a noticeable improvement over the G1. In fact, I think these are one of the best laptop speakers I've ever heard in a laptop this size and weight. So it's quite impressive. So I think that's a huge improvement as well, and a very noticeable one. And the keyboard is quieter to type on. They moved some of the things that was annoying me about the G1 into the keyboard, like the fingerprint sensor gets moved up, the power button gets moved into the keyboard. So that's less annoying. So there's a few substantial, I would say, that may seem minor differences, but they do add up, and I do notice those differences actually. And then, of course, the faster performance as well, right? So it is using a 12th gen processor instead of 8th gen processor on the G1. So that's also, of course, an upgrade. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'd say it's definitely worth the upgrade, especially if you can find it for around $1,000 online. Like that's the price I found it for. And then compared to the MacBook Air M2, really depends on what you're doing. I have the M2 because I use Mac OS for editing videos and doing programming work and stuff like that. And for that kind of stuff, I just feel like Mac OS is better. And yeah, I guess it's the ease of use and everything on MacBook is there. So yeah, and of course MacBooks are always like very nicely designed and very good build quality and everything. So you do get that. But if I wanted to say, like, if you guys are looking for a Windows laptop, and I do use Windows more than Mac OS actually for pretty much everything else. Like, yeah, I use MacBook for video editing and programming, but other than that, I actually use Windows for everything else. I think I'm just used to Windows. So if you guys want a Windows equivalent of the MacBook Air M2, then this is actually, I think it's a very good solid alternative. And it's actually, yeah, a few 0.2, 0.3 pounds lighter than the MacBook Air M2 even, which is already pretty light to begin with. And it's also fairly solid build quality as well, being a business notebook. So really, that's all I wanted to add on to this video. If you guys are thinking about getting HP EliteBook or a Dragonfly Elite G3, then I think this is a very nice laptop to go with, especially if you can find it on discount online, which you can find usually a lot of business laptops on discount, including HP laptops. If you can find this on discount online, like for $1,000 or something, I'd say go for it. If you're looking for like a solid, like Windows Ultrabook, right? That's kind of the Windows equivalent of the MacBook Air M2. So yeah, pretty much I'd say these are probably two of the best portable laptops on the market right now, the MacBook Air M2 and the HP Dragonfly Elite G3. So that's my impressions of this. I hope this will last a fairly long time. Hope at least as long as my G1 did, and without any overheating issues, hopefully. So that's it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, leave me any comments if you have any questions, and as always, thanks for watching.